I'm sitting there thinking this morning, 6 a.m., like about the Brady Bunch, but it's like, why does this matter to me? And even for anybody watching saying like, okay, but it's cool, but like, why are you talking about the Brady Bunch 50 years later? Like, how does it really register for some goth musician, And I think I found the key, and I'm curious for your take, and maybe it's nothing you would even recognize. I think so many kids of our generation were latchkey kids.
Yeah.
And something about watching this fake family, which I know in its own way became a family, it was like we wished we were in that family because we didn't have that. And I'm sure you've heard variations of that. And it gives me chills thinking about it because you're a little kid, you're 9 years old, you're watching The Basement or whatever, you're watching a rerun, whatever. And, you think it's corny and, there's the famous episodes and all that stuff. It's good fun. But I think the sustain in it is we recognize something that was really vital that maybe even the show's producers and writers wouldn't even understood, that there was this whole generation of kids alone in basements and in front of televisions like we were going, well, gee, that looks a lot more fun than what's going on here. Whether I like to make this joke, we were abandoned by our baby boomer parents who were too busy doing yoga and cocaine. That's my joke. But, it was a very selfish generation.
Yeah.
And there's the term latchkey comes from the fact that we'd come home to an empty house. That was normal. It wasn't even a big deal. So what becomes your parent? The television.
Yes.
So on one hand, you have this idyllic, like I said, Eric Estrada writing down the hair blowing and everything looks so amazing and all of it, even you remember like Battle of the Network Stars and all this, there's the stars in reality playing.
Circus of the Stars. That was
now you're going
awesome.
Deep. Now you're going deep.
Because they really did cool stuff.
Did you ever do any of those?
No, I wasn't asked, but it was amazing to me because they would actually get good at these things that were dangerous.
Anyway, my harp here is that I think that's why it's warm in my heart and why I wanted to talk to you, because there's something there that's a lot more powerful than whether or not somebody likes the show or doesn't like the show.
Yeah.
Zeitgeist moments happen in our culture for reasons that are a lot more complicated than what it appears to be on the surface. So somehow you all kind of represented this happiness or this warm.
And it was a need. It's an emotional
weird,
need.
Right? And it never would have crossed my mind unless I knew I was going to talk to you. I had to actually process it. I did go, and I've spent a couple times with Barry, and I've talked to Barry on the phone, Barry Williams. Super sweet. What a nice person and cool guy. But even then, hanging out with Barry, I was more struck in the case of Barry, like he seems to kind of like made peace with the whole thing. Like I literally was walking down the street with him and somebody's like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how that goes. It's like, it's not your real name, but that's who they think you are, right? But talking to you, I think it was like, it all kind of came back like, wow, I remember thinking like, gee, I wish I was in that house.
Yeah.
It looks a lot more fun and sweet and cool.
Well, that's why, because you're absolutely right. And there are countless people that have come up to me and said that show literally saved my life.
That's I mean, it warms my heart because I don't feel alone in this feeling.
No, you're not alone at all. And when I first became really proud of the show is when I found out that child psychiatrists were using it. They were using episodes for kids that were coming from horrible abuse. And, I would have thought, well, why would they want to see this perfectly good family? They do. They want to see somebody being happy. They want to see that there's hope.
Yeah.
And I realized probably in my 20s that the beauty of the show is that it was written from a child's perspective. I mean, Cindy loses her doll. Well, everybody cares. The whole house is up in arms about it. They have a mock trial for Bobby.
If I lost something, they said, tough.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. Dad's calling, home from work. Well, did you find Cindy's doll? And so it's a fantasy. It's not realistic, but that's the fantasy the kids want.